The dawn in the Amazon rainforest seemed to have a life of its own. The humid heat clung to the skin even at this hour, and the rising mist thickened the air, muffling the usual sounds of the forest. The silence, however, did not signify peace. On the contrary, it was a harbinger of something unexpected, as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. In this mysterious environment, the jaguar, the imposing and silent guardian of this region, moved forward with measured steps. Its golden body covered with black spots almost dissolved into the shadows of the treetops. Every muscle moved with absolute precision, honed by centuries of hunting and survival. Its eyes gleamed in the moonlight, alert, hungry, dominant. At that moment it stopped abruptly. Its ears twitched, picking up a sound that did not belong to this world. Small, fragile, human. A cry. The jaguar stood motionless, taking in this thin, desperate sound. It was neither a forest animal calling for its mother, nor a young animal left to its fate. It was something else, something that shouldn't be there. Driven by curiosity or an unknown instinct, it moved forward, stepping over fallen branches and damp leaves. The cry grew clearer as it approached. It passed a fallen tree and smelled the damp earth mixed with something new, undefined. And then it saw it, a small wicker basket leaning against the bank of a stream. It seemed to have been placed there in haste, as if someone had fled shortly after. Inside lay a shrunken baby, its skin stained with dirt, shivering in the cold of the night. Its tiny arms flailed weakly, searching for some comfort it could not find. The entire forest seemed to hold its breath. The jaguar stared at the child for several seconds with its golden eyes, unblinking, assessing the improbable scene. Its predatory instincts were alarmed. Here was a defenseless being, an easy prey. But there was something else, something that held it back from attacking. The baby, perhaps sensing the presence of the animal, let out a trembling groan and turned its dirty little face upward. Its eyes, still opaque due to its young age, met those of the jaguar. And in that moment, something inexplicable happened. The forest, usually so vibrant and loud, fell completely silent. The birds stopped singing, the monkeys hid among the leaves, and even the insects seemed to hesitate. It was as if the entire jungle was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. The jaguar took a deep breath, its nostrils flaring as it took in the scent of the child. In that scent, there was no fear, only weakness, abandonment, vulnerability. The baby whimpered again, its tiny voice dissolving into the vastness of the forest. And then the jaguar did something no one expected. It moved closer, slowly lowering its head until its snout touched the edge of the basket. Its warm breath mingled with the cold night air. The baby flinched but did not stop crying. The animal lifted its paw and gently touched the edge of the basket. Not with aggression, but to test the strange presence. For a moment, there was a silent understanding between the two. The forest bore witness to something that defied the laws of nature, something that made no sense but happened nonetheless. The jaguar saw no enemy, no prey. It saw a fragile life, and without quite knowing why, it knew it could not simply walk away. The jaguar remained motionless, its gaze fixed on the shivering baby in the basket. Its muscles were tense, ready for any sudden movement, but it had no intention of attacking. The child's cries, fragile and piercing, echoed through the forest, reverberating among the tree trunks. And something in those small groans made the big cat hesitate. The powerful predator, capable of taking down much larger prey, moved a little closer, tilting its head as if trying to understand what exactly lay before it. The baby, vulnerable as it was, lifted a trembling arm, perhaps out of an unconscious reflex, perhaps out of a primitive instinct to seek comfort. The jaguar rubbed its snout against the edge of the basket and took a deep breath. The scent of this small creature was unlike anything it had ever encountered in the forest. It did not smell like prey or a threat. It smelled like something defenseless. A new cry escaped the baby's lips, and in that moment, the jaguar did something unexpected. Instead of retreating or walking away, it lay down beside the basket and stretched its massive front paw next to the child. Its muscular body instinctively provided warmth, something that seemed necessary even if it didn't understand why. The wind blew gently, rustling the leaves high in the trees. It was as if the forest itself was observing this rare moment, unsure of what it was witnessing. The jaguar pricked its ears, listening to all the sounds around it. Its instinct told it that something was wrong. Who had left the baby there? Were there other humans nearby, or had the child been abandoned to its fate? A snap in the bushes made the cat rise quickly, its body tense, ready to defend its new find. Its sharp gaze scanned the darkness between the trees, but nothing moved. Yet its instinct told it they were not alone. The baby cried once more, and the jaguar turned its attention back to the basket. Moved by something it did not understand, it lowered its head and ran its rough tongue over the dirty skin of the child, a gesture that, in its animal language, meant protection. The baby squirmed slightly as if the touch soothed it. The jaguar did not know how long it would stay there. It did not know what it would do next. But in that moment, it knew one thing. It would not abandon the small being. Whatever had happened, the baby was now under its care. Many kilometers away, on the edge of the dense and merciless jungle, the Fazenda Rio Claro stood like an ordered patch amidst the chaos of nature. Built with the sweat and toil of generations of workers, the farm resisted the passage of time in the hostile environment of the Amazon, standing firm amidst the endless green. The place belonged to Senor Arnaldo, a man with calloused hands and a watchful eye. He had spent his entire life there, tending to the cattle, the plantations, and the workers, whom he considered his second family. His face, weathered by the sun and years of labor, reflected a man who trusted the land more than fate. By his side was his wife, Dona Joana, the beating heart of the farm. She was a woman of unwavering faith, caring for everyone with the patience of someone who had experienced too many joys and tragedies. Between preparing meals, tending to the sick, and listening to those in need, Donna Joanna was the voice that calmed and the hands that comforted. That night, however, a premonition unsettled them. Outside the main house, Sebastian, the farm's foreman, walked slowly through the yard, observing the dark line of the forest in the distance. As an experienced and cautious man, he knew every sound of the forest, the songs of night birds, the croaking of frogs, the cracking of branches under the paws of wild animals. But that night, something made him pause. A roar, deep, intense, and unlike any sound he had ever heard. Sebastian was not a man of foolish fears. He had encountered jaguars, seen caimans lurking in the streams, and knew how to recognize when an animal was on the hunt. But this roar was not a hunting call. There was something else, something that expressed an emotion. Without hesitation, he turned and hurried to the main house. He found Senor Arnaldo on the porch, arms crossed, gazing at the dark horizon. "Did you hear that?" Sebastian asked in a firm voice, though his eyes were filled with unease. Senor Arnaldo nodded slowly, not taking his eyes off the forest. "I heard it, and I didn't like it." Dona Joanna, who had stayed inside until then, stepped onto the balcony, wiping her hands on her apron. Her face showed a mix of fatigue and worry. "What's going on?" Sebastian looked at his mistress and then at Senor Arnaldo, hesitating for a moment before answering. "The jaguar, it's roaring in a strange way. It's not like it's hunting. It's as if it's calling for someone." Silence fell between them. Dona Joanna clutched a rosary between her fingers and instinctively looked toward the forest. Senor Arnaldo, ever pragmatic, furrowed his brow. "It could be a territorial dispute," he pondered, "or another animal that has intruded into its territory." Sebastian took a deep breath, as if searching for the right words. "I don't know, boss, but I've heard many jaguars in my life, and I've never heard a roar like this." His statement hung in the air like a shadow. Dona Joanna felt a shiver run down her spine. She was not a woman of empty superstitions, but she knew the signs life gave, and something in her told her that the night would bring something unexpected. Senor Arnaldo rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Tomorrow morning, I want you to take a walk around the area, Sebastian. Look for footprints or signs of a carcass." The foreman nodded, but his expression betrayed that he already knew. The jaguar was not calling for prey. It was calling for something else, something no one yet understood. The unease at Fazenda Rio Claro only grew. The jaguar's roar repeated through the depths of the forest, spreading a sense of mystery and discomfort. Even as Senor Arnaldo tried to remain rational, he could not ignore the different tone of this call. Sebastian, the foreman, kept his eyes on his surroundings, as if expecting something to emerge from the forest at any moment. Donna Joanna, sitting on the porch, held her rosary tightly, her gaze lost on the dark line of the forest. The maternal instinct in her whispered that something big was about to happen. At that moment, an idea came to Sebastian. "What if we use the drone?" he suggested, breaking the silence. Senor Arnaldo, leaning on the balcony, turned to him with a puzzled look. "A drone?" "Yes, boss. The one we use to monitor the crops and look for broken fences. We can send it up now and take a look around. If the jaguar is prowling closer than it should, we'll know." Dona Juana looked at the two men, not fully understanding, but she felt something stirring inside her. Senor Arnaldo was not particularly fond of technology, but he knew it could be useful in certain situations. Without objecting, he gave a short nod. "Do it." Sebastian wasted no time. He went to the storage room next to the yard and returned within minutes with the drone, a simple but efficient device equipped with a night vision camera. He turned on the controls, adjusted the settings, and with a light movement of his fingers, sent the small device soaring into the darkness of the night. Donna Joanna held her breath as the control screen displayed greenish images. First, just the treetops swaying in the wind, then the dense forest, twisted branches, and the dark stream bed where the moonlight reflected. Then something appeared, two bright points in the midst of the darkness. Eyes. Sebastian quickly adjusted the camera to focus better. "My God," Donna Joanna murmured, covering her mouth with her hand. On the screen, the large jaguar dominated the scene. Its imposing body rested beside something smaller, which at first glance looked like a pile of leaves and branches. But then the small figure moved. The shock was immediate. "That's—" Senor Arnaldo couldn't finish his sentence. "A baby," Sebastian added, his eyes wide. Donna Joanna felt her heart race. This couldn't be. Her gaze remained fixed on the image on the screen. There, right beside the jaguar, a small human baby squirmed in a wicker basket, completely defenseless. On the porch, there was absolute silence. No one could comprehend what they were seeing. No one could speak. The impossible lay before their eyes. A jaguar protecting a human baby. Donna Joanna sprang to her feet. "Arnaldo, we have to go there." Senor Arnaldo hesitated for a second. "It's dangerous. If we get too close, the jaguar might attack." But Donna Joanna would not listen to reason. The heart of a mother screamed within her. What if it escapes? What if another animal appears? An alligator, a snake? This baby has no one. Sebastian, still holding the drone controller, wiped the sweat from his forehead. "We need to think fast. The child can't stay out there all night." Senor Arnaldo narrowed his eyes, analyzing the situation. The danger was real. The jaguar could see the men as a threat and react fiercely. But leaving the child behind was not an option. He took a deep breath and made a decision. "Sebastian, prepare the torches and machetes. We're going." Donna Joanna did not hesitate. "I'm coming with you." "Joanna, no." Senor Arnaldo tried to stop her. "I'm coming." She stood firm, facing him with unwavering determination. If that jaguar is protecting the baby, it might not attack a woman. If we're only armed men, it might react differently. Senor Arnaldo knew it was pointless to argue with Donna Joanna. He sighed, grabbed his flashlight, and looked at the foreman. "Let's go." And so, not knowing what lay ahead, they set off into the darkness of the forest. The canoe glided silently down the stream, cutting through the dark water surface. The moon's reflection flickered between the ripples caused by the paddles. The absolute silence of the forest made the sounds of the night seem louder. The croaking of frogs, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of an owl. On the boat were Senor Arnaldo, Donna Joanna, and Sebastian, tense and accompanied by two peons who had offered to help with the rescue. None of them spoke, as if the forest itself demanded respect. The drone had already shown the exact location where the jaguar and the baby were, but that did not make the mission any less dangerous. On the contrary, if the big cat perceived the approach of humans as a threat, it could attack without hesitation. Sebastian, ever vigilant, broke the silence. "When we get there, we need to move slowly. Any sudden movement could end badly." Senor Arnaldo nodded, his gaze fixed on the path ahead. Donna Juana held a blanket in her hands, her heart pounding in her chest. The scene seen through the drone kept replaying in her mind. The small baby alone in the forest, protected by one of the Amazon's most feared predators. It made no sense. The canoe reached the shore, and the men jumped in first, helping Donna Joanna onto the land. The lanterns were lit, illuminating the path between the trees. The jungle seemed even more alive there. Shadows danced between the trunks, giving the impression that hidden eyes were watching their every move. The smell of damp earth mixed with that of trampled leaves. Sebastian led the way, keeping his flashlight low to avoid blinding the jaguar's eyes if it appeared suddenly. Senor Arnaldo followed closely behind, machete in hand, ready to clear the path if necessary. Every step seemed to echo too loudly. And then, as they rounded a large fallen root, they saw it. A few meters away, the jaguar lay in the grass, its imposing figure softened by the yellowish light of the lanterns. Beside it was the wicker basket where the baby lay. Donna Joanna felt a tightness in her chest at the sight of the small, curled-up body, its hands trembling and dirty. But it was the jaguar's reaction that made the group freeze. As soon as it noticed the humans approaching, the big cat lifted its head and let out a deep growl. Its golden gaze was fixed on them, its tail swishing back and forth. Sebastian whispered, "If you run, it will attack. If you move quickly, it will attack. We need to wait." No one dared to move. The air was heavy with tension. Donna Joanna, however, could not wait. The baby let out a weak groan, a sound that pierced the woman's heart like a knife. "I'm going," she said softly and took a step forward. Senor Arnaldo tried to grab her arm, but she pulled away. "Joanna, don't do this!" But she was already moving, slowly, one foot after the other. Her eyes met those of the jaguar, and for a brief moment, it was as if they understood each other. The big cat growled again, but did not attack. It simply watched. Donna Joanna raised one of her hands as if to silently say she meant no harm. The baby made a muffled sound, and then, with a slow movement, the jaguar took 2 steps back. That was the signal Donna Joanna needed. She stepped forward, bent down, and wrapped the baby in the blanket she had brought, cradling the fragile, cold little body against the fabric. She was overwhelmed with emotion. "You're safe now, my little angel." The jaguar remained still, watching. And then, with one last look at the woman and the child in her arms, the big cat turned and disappeared into the darkness of the forest, without haste, without fear. Donna Joanna remained kneeling, holding the child to her chest. Sebastian and the others finally stirred, as if waking from a trance. The baby was safe, but the mystery had only just begun. Donna Joanna held the baby tightly to her chest, feeling its small body tremble beneath the blanket. The cold of the night and the abandonment had drained almost all its energy. Its tiny eyes were barely open, and its cries were now just a faint murmur, as if it had given up the fight. Sebastian approached cautiously, still holding his flashlight high, scanning the surrounding darkness. The jaguar had already vanished into the forest, but the fear still lingered in the air. "We need to get out of here before it changes its mind," he said, looking around carefully. Senor Arnaldo, still shocked by what he had seen, took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's go back." The group made their way back to the canoe, with Donna Joanna now carrying an additional burden of responsibility. The forest seemed different. A heavy silence hung in the air, as if all the creatures of the jungle had witnessed this improbable encounter between animal and human, and were still trying to understand what had happened. Their steps were cautious, the torches illuminating every bend in the path. At any moment, the jaguar could change its mind, another predator could appear, or worse, the person responsible for abandoning the baby could still be nearby. They reached the stream and climbed into the canoe, which now moved with urgency. Donna Joanna sat in the middle, shielding the child from the cold night wind. The men paddled vigorously, and the farm appeared on the horizon like a beacon of safety amidst the jungle. As soon as they disembarked, Rosa, one of the oldest residents of the farm and known for her knowledge of herbs and home remedies, ran toward them. When she saw the scene, she gasped. "My God, Joanna, what happened?" she asked, covering her mouth as she saw the baby. Donna Joanna did not answer immediately. She simply walked past the woman with determination and entered the main house. Inside, she carefully laid the baby on the kitchen table and began to remove the dirty, damp cloths it was wrapped in. With each layer removed, the small Gabriel, as they would soon name him, appeared even more fragile. His skin was marked with superficial scratches, signs of the earth and moisture he had been exposed to. But what caught Donna Joanna's attention was an unexpected detail. In a pocket sewn into the cloth wrapping, the baby was a crumpled piece of paper. She opened it carefully, her fingers trembling. A single word was scrawled on it: Gabriel. She swallowed hard and showed the note to Senor Arnaldo, who narrowed his eyes. Who would do such a thing, he muttered, more to himself than to the others. Rosa, who was helping to clean the baby, shook her head in indignation. Who would abandon an innocent child like that? Donna Joanna did not answer immediately. She simply looked at the child, now asleep, exhausted but safe. The baby of the Jaguar, a mystery that had only just begun. Little Gabriel was carefully cleaned and wrapped in warm blankets. Throughout the night, Donna Joanna stayed by his side, watching over him as if he were her own child. Senor Arnaldo, tough as he was, could not sleep. The image of the Jaguar protecting the child would not leave his mind. By morning, the story had already spread among the farm workers. Whispers of the Jaguar baby circulated around the farm, and the mystery grew. Who had left the child in the forest? Sebastian set out to search for clues in the area. He found human footprints near the stream, but the early morning rain had washed away any chance of identification. Donna Joanna held the note with the name Gabriel in her hand inside. This boy was not abandoned by chance. Something is very wrong here. And deep in the forest, far from human eyes, the Jaguar roamed the edge of the woods, as if still watching over the fate of little Gabriel. The days passed and Gabriel recovered quickly, surrounded by the affection of Donna Joanna and the silent protection of Senor Arnaldo. On the farm, many saw his arrival as a divine sign, while others feared that the baby's past still lurked in the forest. With no clues to his origins, Donna Joanna and Senor Arnaldo made a decision. They would raise Gabriel as their own son. The Jaguar was never seen up close again, but every night a distant roar echoed through the forest, as if it were still there, watching from afar. And so, the boy who had been protected by an animal became part of Fazenda Rio Claro, forever carrying the mystery of that night in the jungle within him.